What is up, everybody? Brett here at Conversational Pace. I have a solo review for you today, which I didn't think I would ever do, but I got this shoe, the Brooks Glycerin 22, at the running event, and I went on a couple jogs in it, then I went on a couple more, and then I went on a couple more, and before I knew it, I had logged 90 miles on the shoe, and I figured, I should probably talk about it. This is an interesting shoe because it used to be Brooks's premium plush, highest volume, highest cushion daily trainer. And now, in terms of stack height versus the competition, it's very medium. And it had been a while since Brooks had a maximal stack shoe that could actually compete, and that is the Brooks Glycerin Max. Now we have the Brooks Glycerin 22, which is kind of just in that high stack category, but not quite max cushion. I think I kind of liked it though, so much to the point where I feel like we should talk about it. Before we get going, I just want to say that these shoes were provided to me by Brooks, but I'm under no financial obligation to say whether I like these shoes or not, because I want to keep these reviews authentic, beneficial for you. No one will get to preview or watch this footage before it gets published to YouTube. Quick rundown of the shoe stats. So price of the shoe, $165. This pair came in a men's US size 10 at 11.1 ounces, 316 grams. The total stack of the shoe, so that's like insole, midsole, outsole, is 28 millimeters in the forefoot, 38 millimeters in the heel for a 10 millimeter drop. This shoe is going to be available February 1st, 2025, for those who are watching this video before then. Actually ahead of the game a little bit, so you'll be able to hear what I think before the shoe comes out. That way you can get it on launch day. Quick rundown of the materials. So the upper is a dual layer jacquard knit, which is an engineered mesh. There's a very soft, thin layer right up against the foot, and then a slightly thicker layer that has different densities throughout, which is basically their way of replacing the plastic overlay. It is not the lightest or most breathable upper, but it's very comfortable. It's fully seamless. It's got a little bit of squish to it. A little bit of toe bumper, definitely much more minimal than what we see in trail shoes, but there's a little bit there and it gives it some shape to the toe box. The tongue is actually non-gusseted. It's just sewn in at the bottom, but there are a couple spots where the laces loop through, and I found that it actually did help keep the tongue in place very well. Very generous amount of padding in the tongue, which leads to the ankle collar, which is interesting because it looks like it's knit, but it's kind of a fake knit because there's a very traditional heel cup and ankle collar with a very generous amount of padding all the way around. And then we have the knit that just goes up into the pull tab here, which I don't know, I feel like it's for looks. I can't really tell what purpose it served other than just trying to look a little bit more modern, I would say. We do have a very rigid heel cup in the back, and that's really it for the upper. I mean, it's a pretty simple, like comfort-based road upper, a lot of cushion. The toe box is kind of a medium width. If you've worn a Glycerin in the past, it's going to fit like the Glycerin pretty much always has. The midsole is where we probably see the biggest change that like a Glycerin's ever seen, and this is the DNA tuned nitro EVA. So this is a special formulation process from Brooks that we first saw in the Glycerin Max, and now we see it in the Glycerin 22. Essentially what it is it's a nitro injected piece of EVA, except the way that they do it, it changes density from the heel to the forefoot. So basically the cells of foam, or the holes, are much larger in the heel, which allows for more squish, a little bit higher cushion. The cells get tighter as we get towards the forefoot, and what that ultimately means is a little bit firmer feel, a little bit more responsiveness, a little bit more bounce, which the idea behind that foam is like you get the style of cushioning that benefits each part of the foot the most. And, whether that works or not, we'll dive into in a sec. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see Brooks innovating, coming out with different midsole technologies, even if it is just an EVA. I still do think that there is a place in the shoe closet for EVA foams. The outsole is a pretty classic, like medium hardness rubber. I mean, it's a it's a road shoe. It grips good enough. I don't know what else there is to say about it. There's enough there. The end. Yeah, in terms of miles, I got about 90 miles in on this shoe. I ran a little bit of everything. So I did some recovery runs, long runs, tempo, speed type workouts. I even ran on a little bit of trail. I tested it out on some single track. You can see it's got some dirt on it because, of course, I'm going to take these road shoes on the trails, see how they do. Yeah, I guess what I ultimately learned was that this shoe is pretty good at a variety of things. So the DNA tuned foam does allow me to hit a pretty broad spectrum of paces rather comfortably. I would say that the sweet spot for this shoe was in that easy run that's not a full blown recovery run, all the way up to about marathon effort type workouts. I say marathon effort instead of marathon pace because in a super shoe, my actual marathon effort is like 15 to 20 seconds a mile faster than marathon effort in the shoe. But if I'm doing an effort based workout and I don't want something with a plate and it's, all about just getting the time in at the right effort, I actually thought this shoe did just fine. It was snappy enough where I could still get going, but it didn't feel like I was running in quicksand. It's on the heavier side, but again, 11 ounces, like that's not that bad. I didn't love this shoe as like a full blown recovery shoe. The days after a long run, the days after a really hard workout, that was when I did want something even higher cushion, like that Glycerin Max, like a Hoka Bondi, that sort of thing. So it did end up being a shoe that worked pretty well for most things. Moving on to the ride, I do like the DNA tuned foam. It took a couple runs, like maybe 15 miles, for it to really settle in, but it does have a unique smoothness to it. Whether you are a heel striker or a midfoot striker, even if forefoot striker is not going to notice it that much. Heel striker to midfoot striker, you are going to notice that softer heel landing into that snappier forefoot. And I did find that it allowed the shoe to be pretty smooth without having to have a massive pronounced rocker, which is something that the shoe doesn't have. It has a little bit of rocker in the forefoot, but it doesn't go totally out of control. So it does feel like a lot of kind of more classic road running shoes that I grew up running in. This feels like that, but it just has a little bit more modern materials. In terms of the fit, true to size, so comfortable upon initial step in. That's one thing that Brooks has always been so good at, is just that step in feel. No hot spots, no blisters, nothing like that. I was actually surprised with how good the lockdown was too with this engineered mesh. I mean, even taking it on some like mild single track, and even down some slightly steeper terrain, my foot hardly moved at all. The only time where I would have some issues if I was trying to run fast on single track, but the outsole's probably given out before then anyways. But full confidence on anything on the roads, even taking 90-degree turns pretty fast. My foot didn't have any tendency or like want to slide off the base of the shoe. Room in the forefoot is pretty medium. Again, it's definitely not a narrow shoe, but it's not wide either. It's like squarely right in the middle of the width classification. And I think that's a good thing, if for people who liked the Brooks Glycerin 20 and 21, they are going to like the fit of this 2020, this 22. If the previous Glycerin's fit didn't work for you, this one probably isn't either, unfortunately. I feel like I did run enough in the shoe to talk about durability and value a little bit. So After 80 miles, I'm noticing that there is just a little bit of creasing along the foam. And, that's pretty standard from a softer EVA. It just doesn't have like magic durability properties. So it did feel like I needed like 20 or 30 miles for it to really start settling into that sweet spot. And I imagine that nice feel where it's loosened up a little bit, it's gained a little bit of flexibility while still retaining some snap. I bet I'll keep that through about 200 miles, and then from 200 to 300 it'll work fine, but it won't be great. And then after 300, they'd probably be for short, easy runs only. And I bet they're toast at 400 miles, which is honestly, that's pretty normal for a medium to higher stack road shoe like this. In terms of the value, it's $165, and I did a quick competitive analysis with some of the other brands, higher cushion or almost highest cushion shoes. So we got the Saucony Triumph 160, Asics Nimbus 165, New Balance 1080 165, Nike Vomero 160. Ton of competition in the segment. All those shoes they're very similar. The only difference is really that brand's particular fit and then their version of a kind of nice foam to run in. But they all come out within the same price. And I think, really across any of those, you're going to get your money's worth because you're going to get a pretty high quality of cushion, decent amount of durability, and you're going to be able to do most kinds of running in it. So, for that reason, I think it's a good value. I appreciate that Brooks isn't charging $180 or $190 for this shoe. I think that's too expensive. They already have the Glycerin Max, which is $200, which that one I think is probably $20 too expensive. I think that one should be $180, and this, stays in that $165 range. To kind of round things out, I think this is a great shoe where if you're training on the roads and you need one shoe to do most things, this can absolutely handle it. I would probably have this and a workout shoe, and that can cover the entire, spectrum of road running that I'd be doing. As a trail runner, I do run on the roads because where I live, there are no flat trails. So sometimes my easy recovery roads where I'm trying to get as minimal vert as possible is going to be either out on the roads or on the treadmill. I'm going to be throwing this shoe on. I think it checks that box just fine. If you do want to try out the Brooks Glycerin 22, when it releases, I will put a link below in the show notes so you can buy it from our friends at Running Warehouse because your purchase helps support the channel. It did feel a little weird to do a solo review like this, but I still hope that it did provide some value for you. Let me know if there's anything I missed or you have any questions. Throw it in the comments. I'll answer them. Question that I have though is, I don't run in that many road shoes. I've probably to date still run more miles in road shoes than trail because I spent so many years running track and cross country and doing some road racing before getting into trails. But I want to know, are you a trail runner? Do you have a road shoe in your rotation? If so, what is it? If you are a road runner and you found Conversational Pace channel, welcome. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this review. What is your go-to road shoe? What should I try next? Another question. Do you even have EVA foam in your shoe closet anymore? I think at this point I have more non-EVA shoes than EVA shoes. So this is one of the few. Maybe even someone might even call it a relic. I don't know. We'll see. Is this a dying material? Let me know in the comments. Okay. Thanks for watching. This has been an episode of Conversational Pace. Talk to you guys later.